to prepare them, prepare you with their bio information, which is in your program. I'm going to read it for your hearing. Our first panelist is Dr. Charles Moore. He is a licensed marriage and family therapist. He received his postgraduate training in individual, couple, family, and psychotherapy, working with veterans and their families, sex therapy, and clinical supervision at Council for Relationships. He holds the following degrees: Bachelor's in Philosophy, Master's in Theology, Licensed in Sacred Theology, and Doctor of Philosophy. He is an author and presenter on a variety of topics. His colleagues, supervisors, and clients have consistently identified his calmness, peacefulness, and compassion as a great strength, helping people to heal and live the best of their lives. Dr. Moore provides individual, couple, and family therapy, helping clients to recreate their narratives and find new meaning and purpose in life. He uses solution and emotion-focused interventions, healthy communication, empowering language, and actions in the therapy session, cognitive behavioral, and systemic interventions to bring about desirable changes. Dr. Moore has successfully helped couples to reestablish emotion, sexual intimacy, resolve relationships and communication problems, and heal from crisis-related to affairs, divorce, parenting, trauma, anxiety, depression, death, and grief or addiction. His experience growing up in a blended family helps him to identify family dynamics and make appropriate interventions. His life across continues continents helps him address cultural and diversity issues. He has unique strength helping people resolve shame-based trauma and sexual trauma. Dr. Moore is also a Christian and pre-marriage counselor, a clergy helping people to heal and live the best quality of their lives. Ladies and gentlemen, receive Dr. Moore. Nancy Dennis says that counseling is my passion and my calling. I'm committed to providing a safe, caring, non-judgmental, and collaborative environment where you can express your pain, suffering, and the longings of your heart. Our focus is on helping individuals, couples, and families identify individual relational patterns that may be creating a breakdown in communication and producing unresolved conflict. We also identify family of origin issues, large societal and work school-related issues that may be impacting your mood, leading to depression, anxiety, PTSD, addiction, etc. I will be with you in every step of the way as you take the very important journey to better health. Nancy is a New Jersey licensed marriage and family therapist with over 8 years of experience. She received an MS degree in Christian counseling from Karen University, formerly Philadelphia Biblical University, and a certificate in marriage and family therapy from the Council Relationships Postmaster's Clinical Program. Nancy utilizes a strength-based, God-centered approach rooted in family systems therapy to help those who are wounded and hurting. Nancy is the founder and CEO of Connection of Hearts Counseling Services, LLC, and maintains a full-time private practice in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. She has experience working with couples, families, individuals, children, and working with couples, working with couples, families, individuals, children, and adolescents. Special interest areas include, but are not limited to, depression, anxiety, grief, loss, sexual abuse, marital conflict, premarital counseling, certified as a prepare, enrich, facilitator, women's issues, and life cycle career transition issues. A native of Haiti, Nancy speaks Creole and French. Nancy is a member of Living Faith Christian Center in Pensacola, New Jersey. She has served in the past in the Transportation and Harvest Ministries. Ladies and gentlemen, receive Nancy Dennis. Title 6 McNeil has Master's degree, PhD, LMFT, and AME, therapist, author, artist, transformational leader, and his work is infused with not only a psychological premise, but also 23 years of theological study in therapeutic photography. The fundamental foundation is based upon the mind of divine design for mankind. Its life source is defined by its attraction into principles of truth, absent of fear. Titus has transformed the concept of marriage and family dynamics and interpretation within these institutions, revitalizing the life of worn relationships, helping families to become one whole person in unity. Titus's approach is to accept a head-on collision of two individuals on a winding road, searching for a compass to find their way home. The journey is certainly one of personal discovery to individual realities and both sides of the truth. He has authored the latest work, Healing Inside of Me, The Courage to Win Again. The tools he uses are past, present, and future potentials that have yet to be discovered, specializing in emotional focused therapy with cultural competence and the nurtured heart approach. The encounter is one you won't soon forget. Tyson really has been trained and developed through the process of 40 years of solid research in alternative psychology, biofeedback, Cognitive Institute, and a host of modalities within the past 12 years. Ladies and gentlemen, receive Dr. Titus Miller. Just as a note, we are live streaming. Just be aware that the camera is only going to be focusing on the panel. So we'll talk about this. We'll make sure that we are live streaming. Sharia Farmer, LCSW, the owner of RS Counseling and Wellness Center. Sharia Farmer is a licensed clinical social worker with years of success in helping clients recover from anxiety, depression, and low self-esteem. She has worked in a variety of clinical settings when she received specialized training in multiple therapeutic practices. For the past 3 years, Sharia has worked in her own psychotherapy and training practice catering to mostly, but not exclusively, Black women, couples, adolescents, and families. Sharia's work is delivered to individual, family couples, and group therapy, and workshops focus on helping people navigate through wellness, identity, life transitions, and complicated situations. Her empowerment approach focuses on helping people identify and bring out their distinctive strengths while overcoming barriers to happiness and success. Her goal is to help those she works with create a quality life filled with purpose and self-love. Sharia encourages those she works with to embrace the concept that our wellness and happiness lies within our control. Sharia received a BA degree in sociology from Rider University and a master's of social work with a concentration in mental health, health and aging from Rutgers State University of New Jersey. Sharia is also currently an adjunct professor at Rutgers in their graduate level social work department, where she teaches program development and strategic planning, direct clinical practice with adolescents and children, and diversity and oppression. Along with her professional services, Sharia continues to blog monthly and has authored 2 books, A Single Woman's Divorce, and No One Ever Taught Me How, a pocketbook guide to happiness. Sharia's God-given purpose continues to lead her to develop programs that help other women of color gain the strength to live a full, happy life by creating and integrating wellness. Sharia is more than happy to have you join her journey of happiness and healing. To learn more about Sharia, please visit her blog. Please receive Sharia Farmer. What I'm going to do is have the panel just speak 6, 7, 8 minutes about what they come to this topic and their experience and what they'd like to share with you on tonight. So we'll start with Dr. Moreau. And you can use the mic.
What do I have?
Hey.
Brokenness has a smell. When one suffers from brokenness, you either clean it up or like this egg, leave it, and you know what you're gonna get tomorrow morning. There is also beauty hidden in brokenness. If I like, I can fry this egg, and the smell gonna be good. It all depends on what one wants to make out of the brokenness that one has suffered. Many of our clients come to us broken on many levels. Physical, emotional, cognitive, and spiritual. And the healing has to touch on all these levels of human functioning. And for me, both personally and for the clients who give permission for their spirituality to be incorporated into the counseling, the beauty comes from Jesus Christ. Amen. In order to save us, Jesus broke himself. Take, eat. This is my body. Take, drink. This is my blood. The brokenness of Jesus Christ is life-giving. It is life-saving. Come to me, all you who labor and are burdened, and I will give you rest. We suffer brokenness. In many places and at various moments in our lives. Losses of all kinds, trauma and tribulation, and also on spiritual level. And Psalm 34 verse 18 says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." And when we suffer from brokenness, as I experience working with people, there is deep emotional woundedness, isolation, loneliness, intense sense of loss and shame, and on and on. People tend to numb the pain, taking solace in alcohol, addiction, sex, and sometimes even spiritualization. These are some of the ways people try to self-medicate their brokenness. And some engage in avoidance behaviors and communication breakdown. When people don't heal from this, there is a problem. Big one. And the problem touches on every aspect of their functioning and relationships. And marriage gets a big blow. It is one of the reasons of divorce. No matter how one tries to manage divorce, one suffers from brokenness. And if one has not healed from this woundedness and enters into another married relationship, there is a problem. The brokenness gets recycled. And the new family will be starting off broken. And this is one of the major causes of problems in blended families. And blended families are of different kinds. Some married and divorced, some never married, and the partner is married or had a child out of wedlock. One spouse is dead, and on and on and on. The various combinations are the recipes that will either help or undermine the quality of the family life. There are 5 major challenges that blended or step families face. Inside or outsider position are very intense. Children in step families struggle with losses, loyalty binds, and change. Parenting tasks are divide parents and step parents. Step families must build a new family culture while respectfully navigating previously established cultures. Other parents outside the household, ex-spouses, are part of the family. It all depends on how these challenges are handled. The content of what is being addressed, and the why, which will take one back to one's own family of origin. That will help to explain whether this blended family is on the right path to have a healthy life. There are tips that will help families to deal with these 5 challenges. The insider-outsider position. Cultural impact plays a major role. Educating the children and the family members and helping them to acquire the right skills to bond has always yielded positive results. Interpersonal connections and adopting healthy attitudes. Children in the step family struggle with losses, loyalty, binds, and change. Acknowledging their challenges helps. And it is good to know that boys cope better than girls, and children who are under 9 also cope better. To help children cope, the parents have to be emotionally available, among other things. the parenting style is also important. And step families, building new culture, have to be respectful of one another and have to acknowledge that there are now sets of family cultures and rituals that are being brought into this new family. Sometimes it is these rituals and cultures that clash, not necessarily the spouses. It will also be very helpful to families to realize that spouses who are not living within the household are members of the family, and mutual respect, inclusion, and making it easier for the parent who does not live in the household to interact with the children in the long run will help to create a healthy step family. And finally, we have to always keep in mind that family is where life begins and love never ends. Thank you.
Next we have Nancy Dennis. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Hello, lively bunch. I kind of feel removed from you guys. Excellent job. That's a tough act to follow, Dr. Moore. I have to say, this is great being part of this panel, and Dr. Moore was actually went to the same postgraduate program, Council for Relationships in Philadelphia, and he was one of my supervisors. So this is great being here with him as well as you all. I'd like to take more of a practical, step-by-step approach in terms of what I've experienced working with blended families in my practice. And also from personal experience, being part of a blended family myself and about to enter into marriage. That's also a blended family. The first thing I'd like to say is, I'm going to work from the perspective of a recent couple that I saw. And I'll call them John and Judy Smith. Not their real names. So this couple came to me. They, the husband, John, it was his second marriage, coming into the marriage with 2 kids, ages, I believe they were like 8 and 10, boy and girl. The wife, Judy, single mom, never married. They both met online. They had a quick courtship, and within, I think, 8 months they were married. So you can start to see, perhaps, some problems starting to develop. So the first tip, I have 9 tips, and I have copies if you'd like to pick it up afterwards. The first tip I would have to say is, you have to prioritize your marriage. You have to put your marriage first. If the parents aren't solid, the kids will be in chaos. So that was the first approach with Judy and John. They really hadn't known each other that long. So they were working on establishing their connection in the first 6 months of marriage. And there were a lot of things that they disagreed on in terms of parenting styles, in terms of approach to the children, in terms of what you alluded to, Dr. Morrow, not really having healed from previous brokenness, broken marriage. So when it came to parenting the children, John was like, no, these are my kids. You can't say anything. You cannot discipline them. You can't. And so Judy felt, whoa, my hands are tied. This is my home, and when your kids come for the weekend, you're not allowing me to parent them. So he was undermining her authority. Sound familiar? Anybody ever experienced? Yes. Yes. So the first tip, the first key to establishing a firm foundation is have a conversation, hopefully before you get married, about what your expectations are for your marriage, number one. Number two, you want to take it slow. A lot of times you meet that person, you know, oh, they're so not like my first wife. Oh, he's not like my first husband. And you're really, really happy, and that's great. But guess what? The minute you say I do, and with this couple it was the same, the minute they say I do, they started seeing each other in a different light. Now they're in the home together. Now this woman that you love or this man that you love is starting to parent your child. And yes. Oh, okay. I wouldn't mind. Now, what you saw during the dating period, all of a sudden the person changes in your eyes. Your spouse, your new spouse, is looking different. Because now they have something to say about how you parent your children. They have something to say about your ex. They have something to say about, you know what I'm getting to. So John and Judy, again, he would not allow her to parent his children. In addition, so that's step number two. Number one is prioritize your marriage. Number two, manage your expectations of each other. Number three, you have to set expectations for managing the exes. The ex-wife, ex-husband, ex-boyfriend, ex-girlfriend. They can make your current marriage extremely difficult, right? So you have to present a united front as to how you're going to deal with this. And it's very important to, again, have that conversation. Write stuff down. Write what you're going to say. How are you going to establish visitation? And in terms of financial, how are you going to manage the finances in regards to the children? Because there's always going to be one parent. When there's a divorce, one parent's going to try to be the good parent, the fun parent. Woohoo! You know, daddy's great. You know, when you see daddy on the weekend, daddy's taking us here, going for ice cream, and having all the fun. Whereas then mom, during the week, who has the children, she has to do the heavy lifting. She becomes the bad parent. In this case that I had with this couple, that's what happened. My clients, they were the downer parents. They were the ones who had house rules. They were the ones who were trying to discipline the child. When the kids went to their moms on the weekend, she wasn't supporting the couple. She was undermining them. When one of the son had problems at school, his grades were dropping, he wanted to do sports. The father was like, no, your grades have to get up before you can do the sport. The mother said, don't worry, I'll talk to your father. She lied. The mother lied for her son and told the father, oh no, he's not playing that sport. Whereas the kid had. Am I running out of time? Oh. So, my clients, my couple were like, we couldn't win. This mother was impeding our progress with the children. So again, that was another issue that we had to work through. Number 4, you have to anticipate your relationship is going to change. You have to create, number 5, you have to create a list of shared values. What are going to be, what are the values going to be in your household? Number 6, create house rules. When the kids are with you, you have to have rules. Even though the rules may be different at the other parents, but you have to have your own rules. Number 7, just from a practical standpoint, make a family schedule. Families are busy. When you're running, taking them here, taking them there, work, etc. You need to have a schedule. And you also want to create new family traditions. Now that you're a blended family, you want to start establishing your own traditions that may be different from what the kids are used to. So these are just some of the tips. And again, there's more resources. I have a booklet here by one of my previous professors from council, Remarriage and Blended Families. It's for you. It's yours for free. I have about 15 copies, so feel free to come up to the table and grab one. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Pleasure to be here. Truly honored to be here amongst this fine panel. Both of you, excellent presentation, and thank you for your gifts to this body, and thank you as well. So for me, the blended family thing, I'm so sorry. The blended family thing is I'm a blended product because I had two daddies. That was my father who gave birth to me. But it wasn't until my aunt got drunk to tell me that what your mother told you is not exactly right. Your father lives across the street. And I watched her drink the Colt 45 as she was telling me. So for me, it's been traumatic. I don't even know how I got here in this position to be able to do the things that I do, because all I know is pain. But what I found out is pain was an antidote for maddened hysteria. And when I learned how to master the hysteria, I was able to numb the pain. To the point that pain would give me cues to my error. So I've been married many times because I was trying to stop the pain. And all I knew was the Brady Bunch stayed together. Courtship of Eddie's father, ain't none of y'all old enough to know what I'm talking about. Chico and the Man. And I always knew the $6 million man would get me out of any situation. So you have to know that I grew up, my family members were Mr. Belvedere. Green Acres was where I really lived. And Fred Sanford was really my grandfather. And I had a dumb uncle named Lamont, who made a whole lot of sense with this crazy father. And I'm having so many heart attacks, but I got to put up with you. So while these experts are classically trained, I'm a byproduct of retarded habits. And what I mean by that is, when they sat me down to talk about family systems and all that language and limbo and cognitive and solution focus and all that, I didn't get that until 3 years after I graduated. Talk to me. Tell me, am I crazy? Or am I losing my mind? And is mental retardation a disease? Because the way I see it now, normal people scare me. Most of my friends are mentally retarded. I can trust them because they talk to themselves and they answer themselves. And then they'll call me to ask if they had the right answer. I'll give them the clue. I said, listen, you called me so you know you got the right answer, because I'm going to tell you, you crazy. Now go on about your business, have a good time, play golf. Spirit of adoption. So dad, what's your name? Because most men here could be my daddy if you knew my, okay, I'm sorry. What's your name, sir? Bob's my daddy. He just adopted. Well, temporarily.
Just adopted, okay.
He just adopted me. Now, Bob didn't have no experience with adopted children. I was just a good-looking kid. Am I good-looking? Thank you. I had to make sure. And my wife was watching. Don't you start nothing.
Don't worry, my husband's watching too.
Okay, I'm sorry, sir. So Bob has adopted me. He never once called me his stepson. The problem with blended families are not the fact that they're blended. It is the inheritance of generational bondage and generational lies and generational deceit that have proved to be the culprit that the governmental structure has given us institution to tell us how to raise our families. But the government of heaven's constitution says if you love your child, you will beat your child. You will save their life. Now, when does the government institution become higher than the Constitution of God? You see, what I understand is, first of all, I had to look up the etymology of step father, step son, step sister, step grandmother, step. It came from the 8th century. That's how old the terminology is. And it means that you don't have biological rights to raise this individual. The spirit of adoption, I mentioned it before. When we were adopted into the beloved, God never looked over and said, what's your name, brother? Jeff is my stepson. What's your name, sister? Linda? Linda is my stepsister. It just don't work like that. So how do we introduce this into our households and you allow the man that's paying your college tuition, got you your first car, went to every baseball game, played every tennis game, watched you cry, don't let me cry because I'll mess up something. I don't want to do that. But we'll get the tissue and wipe the tear for you and sit you on his lap and watch Fox and the Hound. And he cried. Because he didn't want the fox to get shot by the owner on the bloodhound. And the dog saying, no, get out of here. You ain't my friend. You ain't my friend. You ain't my friend. Just go and get it. And I'm going through all these emotions. Excuse me. Because it's right. See, I keep real one. Amen. But the dog and then the cat was like brother and sisters from another family. They took on the adoption spirit. I'm going to look out for you, and we ain't supposed to be looking out for each other, but you're my family. I can trust you. If we could just understand that when you take the responsibility, and it's not the parents, it's the children now. Because we got retarded children that don't want to accept their retardation. Your father chose to marry Jenny. Yeah, I know he should have had a conversation and told you, hey, bro, listen, let's talk. Let's go out to lunch. Let's smoke a cigar or something, depending on how old you are. I need to tell you something. I'm getting married. Conversation will kill a whole lot of craziness. Truth will be healing. Transparency will be an antidote to craziness. And yes, I have a PhD in Christian clinical psychology, and I got something else and something else and something else. It didn't make a hill of beans. Because at the end of the day, when I wrote my thesis, the professor who told me I would never get an A in his class, and don't even try, because nobody gets an A, called me up and said, we need to put this down like this, and this needs to be this, and would you teach this? Oh, by the way, you got an A+. Because I let my scars bleed into healing. I'm no longer wounded. I got scars. And it don't hurt no more. If we take the time to keep your love on in disastrous situations, because I will tell you, my wife is sitting here, she watches, she loves me dearly. I don't deserve this chick that I'm married to. But I had to teach her how to fight like a dog. Because I could get a little, rambunctious sometimes. Don't let me have my way. Open your mouth. Say something. You don't want this to happen, say something. I'm not always right. I'm just right. Make me feel that way. When I calm down, tell me how wrong I was. I can handle it. Because what I'm trying to be right about is making a man out of a son I never hollered at making. I'm sorry, that's too much for you. I'm sorry. Okay. Somebody else had a baby. I'm just now giving birth to it. I wasn't even there when it was happening. But God took off his glasses, peeked in the window, said, you can handle it. You in the situation. Because he saw from the beginning of time, the end of time, at the beginning of time, and looked at the passing of time, and saw that I fit the equation. I don't believe in psychology. I'm just going to be honest with you. I don't. Because it is a distorted view of indigenous people who had a whole lot of issues and a particular agenda Sigmund Freud wanted to arrive at with no consequence or equation of adding God to it. Now, Serwin Kierkegaard, I'm with him. Paul Tillich, I'm with him. Because even in the psychology, the expert is never man, it is God alone. I've never met an expert in the field of psychology. We're going to pay you $5,000. You sit on this and determine to us, is this man sane or is he insane? What does insane mean? Does anybody know what insane means? Huh? That's what they told me too. Insane is a legal terminology.
Brother Titus, I'll bring you in.
Okay.
I'll bring you in.
So here's where we go. Blended families. It is an opportunity to blend it so that it blends to a puree, so we all are able to sip it. At the end of the day, there are consequences if we don't communicate. And we must communicate in truths. Amen.
I'm not a preacher, but I do know a little bit. So I'm going to speak from, when I was asked to do this, I was like, oh, blended families, I usually kind of change the language to extended family. Because that's the culture that I grew up with, was that my aunts, my uncles, they were still my mom and my dad. They just go by the name aunt, uncle, and I do what I did wrong in front of them. I got the same thing as if my mama was there. So when it comes to extended families, the only difference is that with blended families, you're selecting to go into something where you didn't participate in the making of it.
There you go.
And so there are three, well, so I'm going to give 7 different items, but the first 3 all align with patience. The reason I chose patience, because I was going to go with love, right? I was like, let me go with love because we're going to church. No, but you need patience to have love, and you need love to have patience, right? And so I went with patience because I figured we'd have some tips, didn't know where I fell. So I wanted to give some really clear tips for patience in blended or extended families. The first one is exercise patience with relationship building. You are in no rush to build the perfect family. It is okay for the first year, the first few years to not go well in order for you to really start planting seeds that will nurture it into a healthy family. So don't run away as soon as it seems like, or early on, before you even get the opportunity to see what your seed actually develops into. So that's the beginning of what I consider forming, which is building, and planting the seed, which is you come together. So the next thing is to be patient with emotions and stress. There is no such thing as a perfect family. So even a non-blended family has high level of stress because there are different individuals within the family, regardless of if there is blood or not. And so understanding and even respecting that just because there's a step included, it doesn't mean that it's any more stressful than a non-step family. So expecting and being patient with forming your form of family. Number 3, be patient with your spouse. And so I'm pulling back to that first tip, I believe Denise stated, where she said, make sure your marriage is first. If you're in a blended family, most likely that means that the blend starts with someone coming into a relationship where there was already existing children. But you chose to have the relationship with that spouse first, and therefore that becomes the most important thing to nurture in order to reflect a healthy foundation for the rest of the blended family. All right, so be patient with your spouse. Because just like you're trying to figure it out, they're trying to figure it out as well. And I'm not sure who mentioned it earlier, I believe it was the doctor, where he said, we have things that we have not healed from, and they follow us into all of our relationships. That would be no different for the spouse coming into the relationship where there's children, or the parent who actually is asking you to join their family. So just be patient with your spouse. And so here are my 4 reminders. I'm trying to keep it in. The first reminder is pray for your entire family. That includes your stepchild's biological parents. So people have a tendency to pray for their household and family and don't get specific. And so my first reminder is that if you are coming into a blended family, that makes that biological parent your family as well.
Absolutely.
And though it may be difficult to receive them, to even understand them, managing those X become extremely important. And to me, if I'm going to do anything with an extension of my family, I'm also going to pray for all of them. So even when they hurt me, even when I don't like the choice they made that I would have made differently, that would be one of my major things, is to pray for all of your family. Number 2, let go of proving who knows best. For the child only wins with that one. So if you are worried about who is the best parent, the step parent, the mom, the biological mom, what you're going to cause is what is considered splitting. And it becomes real easy for the child, and mind you, once he read my bio, adolescence is my group. Once they get to my age, they've mastered splitting. And so I'm telling you, it would be really good for your marriage as well as their nurturing for you not to allow splitting to happen by trying to be the perfect parent, or what's considered the Santa Claus parent. Right? And do everything to make that person happy, that child happy, but then your rest of the family is falling apart. Number 3, don't say anything critical about the bio parent when there is a chance that the child can hear it. Not a joke, not a little bit of, you understand this now because you're such and such age. Because regardless of what that child may feel about that biological parent, and even when we know they may be totally unhealthy for the child, it's still what they are considering their root. And so it becomes really easy for them to see that criticism as self-criticism. Right? So even though you might be talking about my dad, or you talk about why he never shows up, or you talk about this one not being as mature as me, but that little bit of criticism becomes a seed that might also plant insecurities into that child. And then last, Don't try to be perfect at anything. You're going to have good days and you're going to have bad days. That does not mean you have a bad family. What that means is that you're having a bad moment that requires support on different levels, right? And support that can help your family find out how to exist as your family and not just a blended family.
Oh, now we get to what we call we have the appetizer, we have the beginning, now we get to the meat. Now we get to the beef and chicken, so the foundation. So, and I guess I'm going to take some privilege here as asking one of the first questions. I'm going to officially do next. I have any other question. If you have questions that you want to hand in via cards, please pass them up to my wife here, and we'll read them if you want to ask a question. She also has a mic if you don't mind talking. Again, you're not going to be on the actual video, your voice will just be there. So, with the divorce rates, 50% of marriages end in divorce, 63% of second marriages, I believe, end in divorce, and 72% of third marriages end in divorce. Within the confines of those different marriages are children and relationships and all kinds of stuff. So, with knowing that and the challenges with the dynamics of marriage today and family, what have you seen as a trend right now in terms of what really works and making sure that the person is the right person? I don't know how you say the right person to marry, because taking on the responsibility of someone else's child is huge, especially when you don't really know the child until you live with that child. So with all the dynamics of the families and divorce rates and things and children going through, just your opinion about how would you advise someone who's thinking about divorce because of the children? Who's on that edge where, you know what, I mean, I know Turkey, but they really have got to the point where it's disrespect, the biological things that's happening, the disrespect to the biological parents. So in terms of what really can help someone who's really at that point where, you know what, I'm going to be a statistic because I just can't take it because this wasn't right for me. Anyone?
If I'm understanding the question correctly, because I'm not sure if I am.
Okay.
Are we asking about the possibility of divorce because of the child?
Because of the children, right. It's
Okay.
that direct, the marriage is just pretty much going because of the children.
So the first thing I would do is wonder if it's because of the children, or is it because of those things that we talked about with tip number 1, which is establishing a relationship outside of the children that allows for you to be a united front with the child even through difficult times. So that would be my first thing, is to really explore, is it really the issue of the child or the nurturing of our marriage? Because those become two separate issues. And so if they were seen as separate issues, then you would be allowed to work on them separately, right? And so that way you are nurturing your marriage just as much as you are dealing with the conflicts of the child.
Okay.
That would be one of my first. If I'm hearing the other part of the question, I wanted to, because when you said it, the first thing I was thinking was, you need to discuss hidden expectations.
Yeah.
Like, so those undiscussed expectations during premarital counseling become extremely important. And those conversations that need to really make it clear that the way I grew up eating dinner in my house looks different than the way you eat dinner in your house. And so we need to figure out what's going to look right in this new house. And a lot of times those are skipped because I'm in love.
So, like my sister said, it is true that before the children became a part of the equation, the spouses were first, and they were important to one another. When the significance of importance is shifted, then you have a dynamic called, what's his name? Oh, an uninvited guest. And that's called unforgiveness, bitterness, disappointment, rage, absence of presence. So all those things play into it, and it really doesn't necessarily come about the child. The child is just the manifestation of what's happening in the relationship.
When Jesus said, love your neighbor as yourself, what exactly does he mean? Love your neighbor as yourself. This is one of the most misinterpreted verses in the Bible. I'm a scripture scholar anyway. Jesus wants to love yourself first. The quality of love I have for myself sets the standard. If I don't love myself, I cannot love any other person. Never that not what habit. You cannot give what you don't have. Many marriages fail because there is lack of self-love. Love fulfills. Love empowers. Love makes us become more than who we are. Love opens us up. That things inside of us that should not be there should flow out. And things that we need to have inside us that are not there will come in. If one is making a decision whether to stay in a marriage or leave the marriage because of the children, that is dead wrong. Self-care comes first. It might sound as being selfish, but when I take good care of myself, then I have a healthy self to invest in a relationship. Otherwise, I am investing in brokenness, unhealthy self, and that will mess up the problem. I still remember while in training, one of my instructors shared with us about the couple he was seeing. Money is not a problem, and they decided to go for a divorce. And I could hear his voice in the class saying, encourage couples to fight and fight and fight and fight for your marriage. You are better off being in counseling for the rest of your life than going for divorce. Divorce is very expensive on many levels. And the couple insisted on going for divorce. And after they have met their lawyers, the case is filed, blah, blah, they were coming for co-parenting. And one day in the session, they looked at one another and said, we can talk to one another here. And the man said, and she said, that's it. We are staying married. And for years, they were in therapy. And they rediscovered themselves. And their marriage became even better. So survey says, fight and fight and fight for your marriage. And if you must go for the divorce, don't blame it on the children. Thank you.
What I wanted to add to the discussion is that the children will always want to have the biological parents get back together. That's their agenda, that's their drive. And they can really say things, do things to tear the new couple apart, right? And so if a couple comes into my office and says, well, you know, we're divorced, I can't take it anymore, whether it's the wife or the husband, you know, I really have to do a lot of the family of origin work, meaning looking back at his family, how he grew up, her family, how she grew up, but he may be triggered by what's happening in terms of the dynamic of this child trying to tear this family apart. But it is a reality. I try to validate my client's experience to let them know that what you're experiencing is real. This child is trying to tear you apart. It's no joke, and you want to run, and I get it. But if you run, you're always going to be running. Because wherever you go, what's the song? Wherever you go, there you are. You go to another marriage, another relationship, you're going to have the same dynamic is going to most likely occur. So why not deal with it now? So, you know, that's what I wanted to add, and that's the approach I tend to take.
Question? Oh,
Sister Denise, what you just said in the beginning about prioritizing your marriage and stuff like that, I agree with that. And I heard a lot of stuff up there, but I believe, after listening to what Olia said, the reason, first of all, I'm still like, sort of like a newlywed. I'm headed into my second year of marriage. And I married a godly woman. And she raised her family the way she raised her family, but I was adopted. And I never knew my biological parents. And I grew up in the hood in Brooklyn, and with drug addiction and stuff like that. And my children, I never had that connection like she had with her family. So, but God delivered. And I got to know the Lord through the Word of God. And when you say prioritize your marriage, now my daughter, I learned this through my daughter, that some of these problems is because the Bible says my people are destroyed because of lack of knowledge. And it's because they don't know the Word. Like, I'm not a perfect parent or nothing like this, but I know who delivered me. And when the Bible says, when there's two words when they talk about marriage, it says, when a man finds a wife, he must leave and cleave. And when I told my daughter that, because me and my daughter was close, because she stuck with me through all my addiction and everything, she didn't understand that. And she told her, my first wife, about it, and she called me and we had a little bit, but nonetheless. They need to know the Word. And with what this sister said about the patience, I learned that God placed me in this marriage. I don't get hot no more. It's been like over 20 years. But everybody drinks in this family. Everybody. All the men. They drink. And, you know, everybody has their opinion about drinking. And that's fine. I'm not here to judge nobody. I just don't drink. Because I can't alter my mind. I need to declare the Bible says be sober. That's it. And that's for me. And I see things, and somebody on the panel said it, I think it was you, brother, who said, here I am, I'm like the outsider, just coming in, you know, and see, I got married at 57 years old, and you know, this family's already established, so how do I get them to understand that the man is the head of the house, you know, then I'm coming into the house, you understand what I'm saying? There's so many questions into these statements that you know, but it's rough.
What you mean question about what you just said? You talked about it all the time. I'm
coming into the family, and the people ain't recognizing me as the head of the household, and I'm living a godly life. You know, it said lead by example. Lead by example. You know, I was just leaving the house today, and I was like, my brother-in-law's over there. He just coming out of a drug program, and I'm like. And the drug program he was in was a Salvation Army program, and that's a Christian-based program. And I said, did you go to these Bible studies?
The enthusiasm, the love you have for Christ.
This is valuable.
Your heart.
Or something that probably more valuable than any money money could ever offer, which is love. And so the reality is that that thought has to be about your own control over it. Like, so to me, you've spoken to us several times, and your intelligence doesn't equate to being smart. It's your life and your life experience and how you've dealt with it and how you've gotten recovery from it. That becomes the experience that that family may need that has nothing to do with intellect, right? And so that makes you smarter than them in a lot of different ways than you probably could ever claim over. Yeah. So that's for you to hit.
Trauma comes in different shapes and forms. And there is also what is called relational trauma. And people who traumatize others or shame others in whatever shape or form are people who have been wounded and shamed. So they go around wounding other people. Let me share from my own personal experience. I don't let anyone or circumstance define me. I define who I am. And by defining who I am, I set boundaries. This is how I want to be treated. So we need to make boundaries, emotional boundaries, to protect oneself. You can call me whatever names, I don't care.
But I know who I
I
am.
know who I am, and I will stand up for who I am. I will not stand up for who you want me to stand up for. I am my own ambassador. I'm not appointing anybody to be my ambassador.
Deacon Park. Good evening. This mic is mic. First of all, I want to thank the panel for coming and the backgrounds that you all had. Just first couple of statements. I grew up in a blended family, and my two older sisters have different fathers, but we never talked to each other as step. My father, he never said step to them. We didn't use that language in our house. We were just one blended, extended family, and we grew up that way. And now I didn't grow up in the church, but I knew who God was. I just didn't know Christ. I accepted Christ when I became an adult, and then when I got married, my wife and I, we adopted a child. So we have a blended, extended family, and we got him when he was 18 months. Now he's almost 15. He's 14. He's going to turn 15. So we just raised him up. Like you say, spirit of adoption. We raised him up by nurture. Even though he's not biologically our child, but we raised him up, nurtured, spiritually, what have you. I guess the challenge is for us going forward is to you, the panel, and even within the church, how do we raise our families? How do we raise our families? Blended, extended, what have you, and how do we witness to other families who are going through the same, who have gone through these challenges, and they're going forward with them, with the blended and extended families.
So if I'm understanding the question correctly, you're asking how do you model for your own family, or are you trying to extend that to other families who might be in a blended situation?
Both.
Okay, so for your own family, and what's your son or daughter's name? Timothy. Wow, powerful name. All right, so you had Timothy since he's been 18 months. That ain't no adoption, that's your baby. He's gonna walk like you, he's gonna talk like you, he's gonna look like you, and he's gonna act like you. So you have something that has been gifted to you based upon circumstances that are out of your control. Now, the way you exemplify or extend that to others is you never remind him that he was adopted. You take him at his very essence and you share with him your very essence. And the love that you give, the love that you provide will never leave a question. However, when the question is asked, tell him the truth.
Good evening, everyone. I'm a counselor, retired counselor, and at Woodrow Wilson High School in Camden, New Jersey, and I also worked in Philadelphia. And one of the things that I emphasize, not a dysfunctional families in that situation, but one thing I emphasized was communication. That is so very important that we communicate with each other. And one thing I emphasize with the type of student body I had is the positive of them. Always emphasize the positive, how they are positive. And that is so important. They have to feel within themselves, you know, that they are worth. They are positive. So therefore, you know, a lot of things happen. I'm probably sure you all know that. Is to make persons feel that they have worth. You know, you talk about the various types of, Dr. McMillan said, the various types of, you talked about the psychiatrists, and what I try to do, probably do something called, you said the Rogerian technique, okay? That's what I try to use, you know, and that's when you have empathy, you know, for whomever it may be. And I think that is so important because I'm talking about students, I'm sorry, but they feel that they come to you and their self-esteem is so low, and therefore they look at you to make sure they have these positive attributes. So what I say in a lot of cases is communications, and when they talk about their family, you probably do the same thing. I say put step by step what are likes or dislikes so you can communicate with whomever you need to communicate with. So it's a process to go through. So I just like to say, you know, that self-worth, positive self-image, as you know, is so very important to students probably as you have therapy for your various people. So that's, you know, so when I talk about Dr. Now, I'm talking about, you said certain psychiatrists, I call Rogerian theory, the Gestalt, there's Skinner, there's many more. Okay, but, you know, I just want to emphasize that.
I got a question. I got a personal question. So the elephant in the room. Discipline and disrespect. So I'm raising you. I'm doing everything a father should do. I'm not your biological, but you know I'm daddy. What is the extent of my discipline? And Sister Sherry, no, this is a, Willie Moore Jr. talked about it on the radio. Should the father that's in the household, not the biological, but the blended father, be able to discipline that child? Blended mother who's not the biological. Tell me about the issues with discipline and how we handle that in the blended family, please. Somebody help me.
So again, I guess I'm gonna go back to me because I'm in the situation.
Yeah.
My son, gonna be my son to the day one of us die. He idolizes his father, he loves his father, and I commend him to do so. However, there's some misconceptions about, you know, the roles, and it's cool because he'll play Atari or Nintendo 4 or Sony, but I ain't playing that, that's crazy. To sit 7, 8 hours and, But when it came to, when I met my wife, when I met my wife, there were some things that were going on. And before I married my wife, I saw some things going on. And so I dealt with it before I married my wife. I said, brother, that wasn't the word I used. For the sake of our guest, don't you ever, another day in your life, tell your mother you get to it. Don't you see I'm playing the game? That was the last time. And I told him specifically, if I ever hear you talk to her that again, my fist will probably move quicker than my lips will, and you will be sorry. However, because I'm a man of wisdom, you just pack your clothes and get out. And that was the last of that situation, because there will never be anyone to talk to my wife in a disrespectful manner if I don't. So, but the right way to handle the situation is, it's got to be based by communication. And that's a communication between the wife and the husband. And they must be on one accord, because the emphasis of it would be separating the power, the foundation. And we don't never want to separate the foundation, because if the foundation is disrupted, then the institution is ceased to survive.
Amen.
I agree. Everything you said, except I don't believe in hitting children. That's the only disagreement. I know. One of the challenges. Go ahead.
Can I ask why? Where's your as far as, I guess you call it physical discipline?
Because of the legacy of slavery that we as a people here in this country has been through. Beatings, whippings, whoopings, or however, that was something was done to us. We were not considered human beings. So there's a level of depersonalization that when you take your hand, you smack a child. You're big, they're small. They're no longer seeing themselves as being human. It's dehumanizing, in my opinion.
Well, let me just say, he was 16 at the time, and believe me, hitting is not the cause, so we don't want to do that. That should be the last thing. I just think it is a matter of setting boundaries that keep them from injuring themselves any further, because it's a sense of reinforcement. And I do get what she's saying, so let me imply that on the same token. But in this case, where slavery is concerned, we don't want to depict that, and it is not as punishment. Because the conversation after, and I didn't use my hand, but that's the conversation we had. There still needs to be conversation based upon the discipline. At the end of it, if I spank my daughter, I can't stay there. I'm running in my room, I'm crying, I'm begging God to help me because I hurt my daughter and I don't know what to do. I'm tripping. But I had to help her understand there are limitations to this. It must be reversed.
That's not to say, you have to know your child. All I'm saying is, and again, we're talking about different ages, different levels, right? So you have to know your child. Some children, all you need to do is look at them. And they'll be, they'll be fine. Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. I'm not used to microphones. My name is Sharon Jones, and this is very interesting. I'm learning a lot. But I have to say I come from an age group a lot older, and I have to go back on my background. To me, there's no such thing as a blended family. There's no such thing as a extended family, not in my mind concept. I live in a generation where everyone in my neighborhood was my family. If I did something wrong, believe me, they would have straightened me out, okay? I come from a generation where parents enforced right and wrong. You learned from right and wrong, because in my generation, it was life-altering if you did something wrong. I have to say that to say this, in my generation, I have to be honest with what I have to say. When a black child go out into the world and they offended another race, that was certain death. So we had to have parents that had to teach you what you had to say, what you did not do, and what you could do. Because if you went out of that, we knew there was certain death, okay? I came through the age of Emmett, if y'all don't know, okay? There was certain death. So parents in my generation had to correct you with spanking. It wasn't because they were mean or selfish, they were saving your life. Now, when I say I don't understand blended family, I don't understand all of this because of my generation. My father died when I was 6 years old. He had a brain aneurysm. Came home from work, hit the floor. My mother was frantic, was out of it. She had 3 little girls. I was the oldest. The other 2 were still in diapers. I had to be left with my grandparents to live until my mother got herself together with. So I'm saying that maybe that's what you might say is a blended family. My grandparents had to raise me, had to raise my sisters. We learned our wrongs and rights from them and knew how to live and how to be respectful to adults. We're living in a generation now where kids have lost that respect. Yes. They are exposed to so much out here in this world, more so than I ever have been. Sometimes I see kids and I say, boy, y'all got it lucky. Y'all really got it blessed. Chores every week. You know what I'm saying? We couldn't go outside unless you did your chores and things like that. Kids now, I mean, I call them push button world. Everything's a push button. They push button, everything gets happened to them. So what I'm trying to say is, when it comes down to families, especially my culture, we had to extend tradition into our youth. The same way my family extended tradition to me and my sisters is how we grew up. I had no brothers, so I can't speak about the boys. But I have to say that it is so important that you have to teach your child at a very young age how to be respectful to others. It is so important. And the respect starts in the home. It really does. It starts in the home. I hear about people saying that sometimes when you're a blended family, you're coming into a family, how do I teach that child to respect me and so forth so I can get it, so that child will know I'm the parent in the house? I don't even know what that means. You are the adult. That is the child. I wouldn't care if that was your child or your neighbor's child. That child has to learn to respect the adult no matter who that adult is. Secondly, let me be real quick. This is my husband, Quincy Jones. Every day, I thank his mother for raising this man. Very respectful. I had a marriage before I had him. I had 3 children from that marriage. My husband abandoned me with my 3 children in diapers. When I met him, he had to become the father to those little boys. Now they're all grown men to this day. He helped me raise those young boys, but he raised them the way his mother and his father, who was in his life, raised him. You respect an adult, no matter what. There was no ands, ifs, or buts about it. And when you didn't do, there's the door. That's exactly how we were raised. There's the door. There's the door. Said you can't do it right, hit that door. And that's exactly the way it is. So I'm just trying to help the young people, as I hear from Sister Carly and her husband, and very good people. These are very good people. And I can understand what you're going through, but you have to understand that we are living in times right now where children are not learning anything about respect of an adult, whether it's your parents or not. I know, teach them to respect. If you don't teach them nothing else, make sure they know that an adult is to be respected. I'm sorry, I don't mean to take that much time.
One more question, then we will have the final panel remarks, and we're going to close it out. Oh, wait.
Oh, I'm sorry. No. I said I didn't know where I was going.
Okay, I don't need the mic. And to piggyback off what you were saying, I completely agree with what you were saying. But then also, you know that old saying, takes a village to raise a family. I'm in my early 30s as well as my wife, and excuse me. And I guess I can say that we caught the end of that. It takes a village to raise that era. You know, so I think that's where the issues lie today with the younger generation. There is no more village.
There is.
The grandmothers and the great grandmothers, they were still around to a degree. The grandmothers nowadays are late 30s, early 40s. When, you know, like my grandmother, you know what I mean? Like this is her great grandbaby right now. This is, so it's just to, no, it's not more so a question, but just more so to piggyback off of different seasons to compare it to, based off, I guess we could say, a generational, between the differences, and how you were raised, and your support system, and how, I guess you could say, I was raised, to my support system, and how they're different, and also how they're the same. You know, I just want to say my piece about that.
Very good.
Amen. So, Tom, give closing remarks, and then Mr. Remarks will have a presentation, and then we'll move on. So, whatever you want to say, closing, just whatever on your heart, based on tonight.
Be careful who you marry.
All right. Good. Yeah.
Be careful who you decide to lay down with. That's all I want to say.
Talk about the truth for some. Wow.
Do you guys do a discount rate?
We can talk. I'm seeing any of us.
She said she's ready.
I want to use this opportunity to thank the pastor and this wonderful community for putting this together. And for me, I feel honored to be here. I told my church members, I'm going to be a Baptist tonight. By the way, I didn't want to give myself out because I wasn't invited here because I was a clergy. So I respect boundaries. So I'm a Catholic priest. And one final word, trust. 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 If you don't trust yourself, you cannot trust any other person. You can't even trust God. And the pastor, your question about discipline, without trust, discipline doesn't work.
Thank you for having me, Pastor Holmes. Thank you for being an attentive and audience and giving us really great questions and great fellowship. I had a really good time. Thank you.
Thank you. Patience, people. Thank you. Amen.
So first of all, you ought to give yourselves a round of applause for being courageous enough to come out and seek guidance when it comes to family fundamentals at large. I'm so proud of the village that's sitting in the back. It's just amazing because I ain't never had that, but it's powerful. Secondly, thank you all for, I am also honored to be here. I don't think this should have been a one night, I think it should have been a summit because we're just touching the surface.
Amen. Let's give our panel a round of applause. Awesome. Right now we have a presentation for our panelists. We know we're a small church, but we have big hearts. We want to just express our appreciation to you and Brother Fisher, who's the head of the men's ministry, men's fellowship ministry, is going to do a presentation now to our panelists. Amen.
Praise the Lord. To the panel, as the chairperson of the men's fellowship, my great successor, Lodge. I love that man. I'd like to present you these little fiberglass plaques that are very nice here. It speaks on this is blended family farm. And we'd like to thank you. The first one goes to Dr. Charles. Second one is your Sister Nancy Dennis. Dr. Titus McMillan. Yeah, and last but never least is Cherie.
Farm.
I wanted to say one more thing before I sit down to Dr. McMillan. You know, I'm sort of like you, because I cry and eat. You know, just listening to y'all, you know, tears was coming down my eyes, and, you know, I'd like to thank you once again. And also to you and Dr. Charles, this Saturday is a men's brunch that we're having here. And it's going to be sort of like the same setup we have now. We're going to give out these index cards and we're going to talk about topics dealing with men and what the situations we deal with in life. So you're welcome to come 11 a.m. here in the sanctuary, and then we're going to serve food downstairs. You're welcome. Thank you.
Amen. Well, I'm just hallelujah happy. Hallelujah happy. Anybody hallelujah happy? It's the highest praise. Amen. Let's give God some praise tonight for an awesome performance. Amen. And we just want to bless them, and we have the resources, you have information. Now, this is a very important part of it. We need you to spread the word. And there's people that need help. We can pray, but we need practical, helpful resources. And therapy is the way to go. Dr. Charles said it so poignantly, so powerfully. A lifetime of therapy is better than divorce. For the children, for the marriage, and for life. So again, I'm so gladly happy that we had this forum. I was sharing with our guests, I think this should be a continuum in our community, that we should do it again. We'll do a little more advertising. I advertise social media, and we advertise, and we thought people would come, but listen, people who are here are people that God will have here. Amen? Amen. So I'm going to ask Reverend Clark to come pray us out, and we'll be dismissed. Amen?
Amen. Stand there if you're able to. Amen. Do
Dear Lord, Heavenly Father, we are just so grateful for this evening. We are thankful for the love that has been shown and one to another. We are grateful for our panelists this evening who thought it not robbery to come and to be able to share their understanding of your love and the wisdom that you've deposited in them concerning families. We're thankful for that, Lord. Lord, Heavenly Father, we just pray that we will be able to take the various bits of wisdom and nuggets received here this evening, and that we will be able to use it individually and in our own respective families, whether it be blended, extended, or otherwise. As we grow and develop in our families, our community, and our nation, being mindful of currently families who are being split apart. Lord, we just pray that there will be an attention to the impact of our families at the border side right now. Lord, we pray that there will be individuals such as our panelists and even any of us as believers in Christ that can just reflect your light and love and be able to touch one, each one. We're thankful. Lord, we just pray that you will just keep us. And we're looking forward to your blessing of another opportunity to learn more about what you have to say about family, starting with love. Lord, we just pray also for protection as we travel home. And looking forward to another opportunity to meet again. Until such time, Lord, we just ask that you will keep us and you know we'll be kept. It's in the precious name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. May the church say amen. Amen.